So, listen, I want to unpick some of the things that you've learned and you've written about over some of those years in two or three subjects, and then we'll see where we get time to in this session to talk about something else. But I suppose we should start with the thing that perhaps you said that you've researched, and the thing that perhaps people think about you of the most, in one sense, David. So that's recovery capital, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
And tell us something what you've learnt about that, and before we get into talking a little bit more about the recovery communities or the recovery organisations and stuff, because that's been at the heart of what you've done. And I've always been conscious. Every time I need to think about you, all I ever do is think about you giving chats involving a box with donuts,
Yeah.
So the contagion effect, I think, is part of all of that, yes?
And one of my main Australian developments was around that social identity model and social theory. And I would still regard myself kind of at heart as a social psychologist.
Okay.
I'm not sure social psychology would have me, but I'm self in that. And it's funny because two things really fundamentally happened when I moved to Australia. One, I got absolutely savaged by Alex Wodak and the harm reductionists in Australia as the carrier of an evil disease of recovery that wasn't wanted or welcome in Australia. And it wasn't my experience on the ground, but nonetheless, among the cognoscenti of the Australian addictions field, I was a dangerous outsider carrying an evil message. And, they were full of those traditional criticisms, which, in retrospect, had some weight about it's all personal narrative, wishful thinking, God, spirituality. Provide me with meaningful evidence of what's going on in the recovery world. And, I thought we could do some of that, and certainly some of the work that, say, Leanne Kaskutis has done in 12-Step, and you mentioned Rowdy earlier, him and Wouter have done, along with George de Leon and Therapeutic Communities. But they're all indicative little bits of evidence. John Kelly's and Keith Humphrey's phenomenal work on reanalysis of Project Match. They all look good, but they were patchy. And you could totally drive a horse and cart through the recovery evidence base. And so coming across both social identity theory, which struck me as a kind of useful conceptual framework for shaping some of this work,